Rogersville.
Please.
I may have been confused from the last meeting, but I thought EMS had kind of been tabled to just kind of see this budget reading of what was to come. The paperwork that I presented to you here today is some illustrations to show you the dire need that for EMS in general in the county, and secondly, where we're at right now this year, and also some comparison to other counties that are not named. It's just county A, B, C, and D. But your first page there shows so far from January to April what we have built out there at the top. That is the calls that we ran and we built for it. The next column there is contractual adjustments. So with insurance, when we bill insurance, there's an automatic rebate per se that we have to take off that bill. The bad debt is what is unable to be collected versus, like private pay or something like that. The paid is what we have received to date at the end of April by our billing company for the services that we've rendered. On your next page there, goes over the billable calls that we have ran and the total responses that we've ran for the entire year. And as you can see, they are increased over the past 3 years in both columns. The next page there shows that the average payment that we received per response is $335.34 this year, which is significantly lower than last year and even lower than the year before that. Your next page, we've done a comparison over the past 2 years showing basically where our increases are and what is causing that. Total increases over the last 2 years is $690,000, right at $690,000 even, which comes up to about 8.915% increase every year in operating budget expenses. We started our budget request here with the county at 4.5 with a request of $600,000 from the county. My understanding last anything was said, we're down to, we're back to what we were last year at $200,000, which is a $400,000 reduction, which brings us down to 4.178. And based off the year-to-date billing, it shows a projected decrease of $340,000 for this year. We're already into our fiscal year, so ours is different than the county's, obviously. We're already almost 5 months into it now. But based off the information that we've received from paper that we can print out and show you any other records that you need to see, we're at a $340,000 decrease in revenue this year, just by our billing, which then brings our budget, operating budget, down to 3.8. Some reasons for our budget increases this year that were not initially in our budget, because at the time of our budget we didn't know. But for the new station in Rogersville and the administration offices, we're looking at a 280% increase in our budget for utilities. For utilities and buildings. At our last board meeting, we were told that our Lakeview station, they were going to be requesting more money to help cover the utilities that are used at that station. Currently, like in the last meeting, I told you that we had already replaced 3 motors. 2 of them have been with them since the budget was presented to the county. We have 2 more trucks that are identical to those that have suffered those engine failures. So it is possible that those two are going to require engines and transmissions as well, which is unknown cost now because everything's going up, as everyone knows. These next few pages are just illustrations to better explain it than maybe a table will, but county comparison populations, try to get some that were very equal to us, some that were higher than us, and some that were lower than us. The bottom blue bar is Hawkins County. The other counties, they're just County A, B, or B, C, D, E, and F. As you can see, we're very comparable there to the last three on the bottom. And then the county comparison, the unit per citizen, that's how many ambulances that are provided per citizen based off their population. Obviously, we're not the best, by the graph shows, but we're not the worst. We're right there in the middle, kind of the median. Again, the blue bar on the bottom is us, Hawkins County. The next page shows the number of units that each service provides to their county. And to kind of explain why I say that we have 5.5 here is we have 5 24-hour trucks and a 12-hour truck. So 5.5. These other counties, you see there's some that's less than us, there's some that's more than us. Then the next graph there shows the county cost per unit that is ran, which I think is the one that speaks the most volume about our situation at the moment. I understand that we are not a county service, and some of these that are listed here are not county services either. But for every ambulance in this county, with the budgeted funding, is roughly $36,400 for one ambulance in this county. The next closest is $73,000 per ambulance that county has provided to its citizens. On the next page, it shows the county comparison as far as county funding. The bottom one there, which is Hawkins County, $200,000. The next closest is at $292,000. And then it keeps going up there. County B, we were able to get some more information from them. Has an approximate $3.5 million revenue in billing reimbursement, but it is supplemented with the $292,000 from county government provided by 2 cents property tax that's designated for EMS. I don't want it to be construed as me coming in here telling you that you need to do a tax base for us. I'm just giving you the facts of the comparable counties. So nobody shoots me or anything like that. I'm not saying that. County D, which is the purple bar right there in the middle, it is completely funded by the county government by a 20-cent property tax that's completely designated for EMS. But I feel the most important paper here is the next one, where it's all kind of gathered in one spot for you. And the red, the light red shaded area, I feel is the most important to look at as far as the cost per unit that Hawkins County is getting an ambulance for versus these other counties. We're significantly lower than the next closest ambulance service that's comparable. I do understand that they have a supplemental income there, but EMS is very important in the county, just like Mr. Jones here said about the first response. Just like law enforcement, just like fire. It's all very important to provide safety to your citizens in our county. I understand that you have a budget that you have to balance, but certain areas we have to make sure are funded appropriately so that way services are there to be provided for our citizens. And the last page there basically, it's just, I just want to say that, you know, the request doesn't come from wants, but it's what is needed to sustain the current level of service to our citizens. We've tried to alleviate some of the burden from the taxpayer as well as the tax base by pursuing grants, partnerships with organizations to bring in funding for equipment that helps improve services provided to the citizens. This is a list of the ones that we could think of right off the top of our head, so totaling up to almost $1.5 million worth of equipment that has been brought into this county via grants or partnerships with other agencies or organizations. I know it's been discussed looking at the opioid money for the potential purchase of ambulances. That's great. I appreciate the thought. That's not solving a problem now. That's 2 years from now, problem solved. That's my concern with just focusing on that is being the supplemental funding. So I want to reiterate that it's crucial to take into consideration the funding level for EMS. And I do have a demonstration that I would like to kind of maybe give you that might help people understand, might help y'all understand a little better. Not really sure. But as you know, if you're having a heart attack, there's one way that we can diagnose that in the field, and that's by doing an EKG, hooking you up to our heart monitor. That takes 10 of these. So if you take one out of it, that's 10%. We can't do our job. We can't diagnose a stent. We can't diagnose a heart attack. We have to wait 30, 40, 50 minutes to get you to the hospital before we figure it out. I don't want this to seem like that funding's not increased, that we're not going to be doing EKGs. I don't want that to come across. It's just kind of a depiction of what could occur. And I want you to understand that as simple as 10% can cause a drastic effect.
Jason, are you finished before I ask the question?
Yes, as far as I know, I am.
How does these departments employee in first response, how does that help supplement what you do? Does that help offset any costs?
Cost-wise, it does help offset some costs. With them being medically trained, if they get there before us and it's somebody that's just wanting their vital signs checked, but that's not what they told during dispatch. They get there, find that out, they holler at us and cancel us because they can obtain that refusal saying that they don't want to be transported to the hospital. So that's a cost savings for us. The biggest thing that they provide to the citizens is a quicker response and maintaining more services available in the county. If we run a cardiac arrest, first response runs, we don't have to take up 2 ambulances. That's how we used to do it years ago, is we tied 2, possibly 3 ambulances on one call for one patient. So we're reducing services when the option to have first response, cardiac response services helps out tremendously.
But to be clear, them first response from the fire department is not the same as what you do. It doesn't replace the service you provide.
They can't transport. You know, depending on what level of licensure those members have. So you have first responder or EMR. You have basic EMT, advanced EMT, and paramedic. Some organizations like Mount Carmel, they have some paramedics that do first response. So they can do everything that our paramedics do on an ambulance, except they can't transport. And then some specialized techniques or procedures that we perform in the back of an ambulance because they don't have those medications or that particular equipment.
Would you say that's kind of a way of how you're filling the gap, or how you specifically about just the service as a whole? is getting by with having a 1 to 10,600 ratio versus like a 1 to 8,000.
Yes.
By having other people trained to provide this service. And I'm sorry. So as far as your funding goes, understanding that the transportation is important and the limitations that that's going to put on you. If this stays at the same funding level, could you speak to sustainability for what that might look like for next year, or even if there would be a next?
I'm sorry, man.
If we stay at the same funding level, could you speak to what your year-over-year sustainability will look like if it makes it that far?
I can project and predict,
right,
but I can't give you a guarantee. I do believe at the funding level that's been requested, I don't see that any additional request would be warranted for the next year.
What was requested or what you've been funded at currently, or what's your in the budget at currently? Currently we left there
200,000.
200,000.
Oh,
So
for next year?
Yes.
Oh, I can't guarantee that you'll have the amount of units in the county that you have now.
Which is going to further change your numbers of units per population and just continue to have more impact, a trickle-down type impact on everything else.
Yes. We're a lot different in a lot of the surrounding counties. Is 75 to 80% of our transports, we're going out of county. We're going to Holsville, we're going to Johnson City, we're going to Morristown, we're going to Knoxville, which then ties up that unit longer, even if we're able to get to that hospital, drop them, and get right back on the road and head it back. But a lot of times in these ERs, Commissioner Palmer can attest, ambulances are being held hours on top of hours, waiting for a bed to drop their patient. So one call that's could be turned in an hour, hour and a half, could last 6 hours.
So this is just some continued fallout of the decline of the medical, the hospitals in the area.
Healthcare in general.
Stuff. It's kind of trickled down from that, and we're trying to fight it and do what we can. It looks like very limited resources by comparison to everybody else that you're showing.
Jason, I got a question.
Yes.
On the handout you gave us, your county B, C, D, E, and F. Out of those counties, I know we've discussed agreements with the county. Can you tell us which any of those counties have agreements?
You're talking about like the joint venture?
Yes.
For 100%, no, I do not know. There's one, by looking at the information that they give us, it looks like potentially that's a joint venture, which would be County B, is what it looks like, but I don't have that information to be 100%.
Where are we at on the joint venture?
The last thing I know is speaking with TCRS, and they was needing some information.
We have to get some information from various municipalities in support, and several other things we're working on. But TCRS finally gave us a pretty good list of what needs to be done in order to move forward. We've been trying to get that forever. So.
Do you currently receive any funding from municipalities here?
We do standbys for Rogersville City, which they do provide payment for the events downtown that require an ambulance to be there dedicated to that event. Churchill and Mount Carmel provide buildings for us to stay in, which is a monetary, I guess, type of deal. Not a physical, but I mean, it depends on, in kind.
I believe the city charges $1 a month.
I think it's $1
$1 a year, whatever it is.
And then we pay the utilities.
Yeah. But the biggest need that just look at the reports that you've shown, labor is a big expense, and that's where cash flow, buying buildings or buying trucks or buying this, that really doesn't really help your cash flow as far as paying employees.
No, see, we have to stay competitive. We're not going to have anybody.
Well, the biggest problem that EMS has and healthcare in general is you've got insurance companies dictating what you can and cannot do and what they will and will not pay for. A lot of people don't work in healthcare.
Right.
That's the biggest problem. You build you build 2.4 million and you've actually been paid out 883,000.
Yes.
I mean, that's
No business sustains off that.
and this isn't just a Hawkins County issue. This is
Right.
nationwide.
So Jason, can I ask you, what's the bottom dollar? Like what requested, 600,000. But, what's it gonna take for you to get by this year?
I believe without any, capital expenditures, like any new equipment, anything like that, unless it's grant funding, something of that nature. I believe that 400 it would make it tight, but it would get us through.
And if you were not to receive that 400, what you're saying is the chances of you continuing to provide services are going to be pretty slim. That's the second part.
It's going to be extremely difficult, but like I've always told you, we'll do the best that we can. But the numbers are there. I can't. We're at the mercy of the insurance companies.
Will there be any employee raises or anything built into that to help you with staffing with the additional funding, or?
No, that is not included in any pay raises.
So that's just like maintaining status quo, I guess is what you're saying.
If we did, if we increased the funding from 200 to 400,000 in the budget this year, is that something? So you said barring capital projects, capital improvements. If something were to occur, engine blows up, something like that, is that something that we then could go back and look at some of the baby dough money to supplement that, to kind of do as a if needed basis, to kind of just, I know we can't really earmark it, but just reserve where we could increase the funding for the annual budget by 200,000, such a full request, or if something does occur, we can always go back and look at baby dough money for additional as needed. I mean, we don't want to lose ambulance coverage in the county.
So you're saying increase it to 400,000?
Because that's what you said. That's about your and that's the.
And then supplement with another 200.
If needed, if there's equipment or capital purchases, or like I'm not sure right vernacular, but the box on the back of it, and I can do remounts on those. If something like that would be needed, we can look at them, doing that as needed out of capital, out of baby dough funds.
TM payment.
To what?
TM payment money.
Sorry, TM payment money.
Lots of money.
Yeah. To use something like that towards, would that qualify?
I've not ran it by yet because you'll have to give me direction on it yet, but I don't see how it wouldn't.
It wasn't in front of you.
That's the call that he goes to answer.
Right.
But I can give a definitive answer if that's the direction you want to move forward with.
I'm going to put it somewhere.
No, you can't have any of that. You cannot do without any of that.
No.
Okay.
So, would you like to take action?
I make a motion that we increase the Hawkins County Emergency Medical Service funding to 400,000.
Motion's been made and seconded to increase Hawkins County EMS funding to buy 400,000.
I'm sorry, 200,000.
About 200.
Increasing it total of 400.
I'm sorry.
Who was the second?
Judge Gill. So to increase their funding by 200,000 for a total of 400,000. Is that correct now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Motion is on the floor and open for discussion. Seeing none.
So the 400,000, that's part of your, and that's 200 then.
Well, at that point, we wouldn't be taking any action, so let's specify.
So we're not at 400,000.
400,000.
Total.
The community keep in mind that if they do need something, we can look at that as a place to fund it.
All right. Any other questions? Sarah, you ready?
I'm ready. Jason Roach,
Yes.
Joshua Gillum,
Yes.
Tom Kern,
Yes.
John Gibson,
Yes.
Danny Elvis,
Yes.
Robbie Palmer.
Yes.
6 yes, motion carries.
Okay. Thank you, Jason.